All right, so I'm going to do this video on Mike Huckabee and his comments at the shooting and at the Newton School. And let me just start off by saying what I say about Huckabee and God is in no way to say anything bad about the students or the shooting. I mean, it really is a travesty. It's horrible. It's a travesty and a tragedy that these kids were killed, and it's sad. And I couldn't imagine sending my child to school and finding out that they weren't there anymore. But just as is a tragedy that this shooting happened, it's the same tragedy if a bus goes off a cliff and the children die, or if you get in a car accident, or if they ate something and and choked and died in the cafeteria. These things happen, and it's sad and it's freaky, and we live on the precipice of life. Is really hard. Like it's really hard to get life, there's all kinds of stuff that can kill us, okay, at any moment, all right? And it's kind of funny that I'm doing this video on Doomsday, okay, 12/21, where I guess we're supposed to all die, So point being is we're not all dying, but the point is we could die at any moment. Any moment it could happen. Anything could happen. A gamma ray could blast our quasar blast could take our atmosphere out in 3 seconds, and we'd all be gone. And that might happen today. It didn't. Okay, it might happen tomorrow. So just to get back to my point is religion comes in. Where religion sticks its head is anytime there's a travesty, whenever there's a something that's bad, it's religion comes in to say, well, we need to help you. The only time religion shows up is when you're stupid, okay, and you don't know any better, when you're desperate and you're in jail, okay, most of the people in jail love religion, okay, when you're not when you're stupid or you're just ignorant, when you're young and you don't know any better, and so they force it down your throat, or when you're afraid. Okay, I just read something on YouTube or Facebook where somebody was like, they posted something that said atheists are only atheists until the plane starts going down. Okay, so well, yes, because you're going to cry out for help. Okay, and since no help's coming, you might as well ask the imaginary guy, because he ain't going to help either. I don't remember him catching some planes for anyone. A big God hand coming out of the sky. Okay, either the plane lands or it doesn't land, and God has nothing to do with it. But the point being is that's when religion shows up. So here's Mike Huckabee and his nonsense and all that. And unfortunately this is what a lot of people believe. Like there were people on YouTube, on Facebook, who were like, yeah, see, we take God out of schools and this is what happens. Well, wasn't God in the schools? Like Huckabee is going to talk about. Well, the last 50 years we've systematically taken God out of schools. Okay, so the country's been around for over 200 years. So what you're saying is before that, God was in the schools. So when black kids were getting beaten and tortured when people weren't even allowed, when slavery was around for like the first 100 years of the United States, where was God then? When people were getting beaten and killed and tortured, all right? What about when they were burning crosses on people's lawns? Those were very God-fearing people. See, back in the good old days when God was around and people used the Bible to justify their slavery and their treating of people and beating of people. I guess that's the days we want, because that's the good old days when nothing went wrong. It just happened to those colored people. That doesn't really count. These are white kids. Okay, so the point being is, I'll just let I can't even say his name, Huckabee. I'll let him go. Here, listen to his nonsense.
Well, maybe it's simply the attempt to express our collective shock when we say, we're trying to make sense of the horrific shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School. But we're not going to make sense. Not from that which is totally disconnected from the cognitive capacity of any rational human being. The governor of Connecticut, Dan Malloy, got it right when he said evil has visited this community. President Obama, in an emotional statement from the White House, spoke more as a parent than a politician, and he quoted the Bible to bring comfort to the nation. Churches were filled in Newtown, Connecticut last night as candlelight vigils were held to grieve for the 27 innocent people killed and the countless lives of those shattered by a few seconds of crazed carnage. On Friday, Neil Cavuto asked me, where was God? And I said that for 50 years, we've systematically attempted to have God removed from our schools, our public activities, but then at the moment we have a calamity, we wonder where he was. Well, the predictable left lit up the airwaves and blogosphere with a vile and vicious reaction and jumped to the conclusion that I said that if we had prayer in school, the shooting wouldn't have happened. Well, I said nothing of the sort. It's far more than just taking prayer or Bible reading out of the schools. It's the fact that people sue a city so we aren't confronted with a manger scene or a Christmas carol, that lawsuits are filed to remove a cross that's a memorial to fallen soldiers. Churches and Christian-owned businesses are told to surrender their values under the edict of government orders to provide tax-funded abortion pills. We carefully and intentionally stop saying things are sinful, and we call them disorders. Sometimes we even say they're normal. And to get to where that we have to abandon bedrock moral truths, then we are asked, well, where was God? And I respond that as I see it, we've escorted him right out of our culture and we've marched him off the public square, and then we express our surprise that a culture without him actually reflects what it's become. As soon as the tragedy unfolded, I think God did show up. He showed up in the lives of teachers who put their lives between a gunman and their students. He showed up in policemen who rushed into the school not knowing if they would be met with a barrage of bullets.
Mike Huckabee, so God showed up with teachers to protect the children. That's how God showed up. He all the ways that he could have stopped the shooter. He couldn't have just zapped the shooter. No, what God's method of stopping the shooter was to put teachers who are people in front of the bullets for the students, even though it didn't stop the bullets for the students because 20 students still died. So you're saying that's how God showed up. God showed up to save the day by throwing teachers and armed men in front of the bullets. Oh, well, thanks, God. I'm glad you showed up. That was, thanks for showing up. That helped.
Barrage of bullets. He showed up in the form of hugs and tears for children, parents, and teachers who had lived through the slaughter. He showed up at the overflow church services where people lit candles and prayed.
So once again, we got God came in the form of hugs. Thanks God, and he came up in the form of people showing up to church and praying. Well, thank God those people show up to pray, because I guess now nothing bad's ever going to happen again with the massive prayers. Okay, see, this is the problem with religion, all right? So you think that you're anytime there's something bad, anytime something happens that's horrible, that's scary, that's when religion thrives. It never works in a time where it's time to be rational. When people are emotional and they're looking for answers to something happening, okay, that's when the God people sweep in. Oh, look, we have some people who have just been through a travesty. Come talk to our invisible sky daddy. He'll make everything okay. And you take advantage of people when they're the weakest, okay? And that's when God shows up. Well, thanks for showing up, God. How about showing up before the travesty and not showing up after the travesty? How about that? Oh, but we systematically took him out of the school, so therefore he didn't show up before the travesty. And his way of punishing us for taking pledge out of schools or having abortion pills was to have someone shoot 6-year-old children who weren't the reason for any of that. That's God's plan. That's his way to. He's not going to show up and actually tell everyone, hey, by the way, I don't want you to do this anymore. He's going to kill children. And teachers. Okay, justice seems totally like a compassionate person. Oh, God, sorry.
And in a few days or weeks, we'll probably ask God to excuse himself from view, and we will announce in our arrogant pride that we're now enlightened and educated, and we've evolved beyond needing him. And somebody's going to suggest that we pass a law to stop all this kind of thing. I might want to point out that we don't have to pass a new law. There's one that's been around a while that works if we teach it and observe it. Thou shalt not kill. Oh, there are about 9 others. But to tell you about them would require bringing God back, and we know how unacceptable that might be. Let's
Oh no, it's not unacceptable, Mike Huckabee, because the other 9, if you even know what the other 9 are not that great either. Okay, you shall not steal. That's fine. Okay, you should not bear false witness to your neighbor. So you can't lie at all. All right, ever. Okay, which is, I think there's times to lie. I mean, the whole God book is a lie. But you should not covet your neighbor's house, or covet your neighbor's wife, or covet their male or female. I love how they changed it now to servants, when in the actual Testament it's slaves. Don't cover their male or female slaves, or their donkeys. I mean, there's probably too much donkey covet. That's why these kids were shot. That's probably what happened. Okay, it says remember the Sabbath. Okay, so maybe they had some Sunday school. Sunday school. Wait a second. You're not supposed to do. You're not supposed. There you go. There's a problem. Okay. Don't forget about the first 3, which talk about how put no gods before me. Don't make any images of me, or worship any gods other than me. Those things, because that's important. If you don't. If you're going to do that, by the way, it also talks about in the 10 Commandments how your God is a vengeful God and a jealous God, and He will strike down at the 3rd and 4th generations of people who hate Him. So that's part of the 10 Commandments too. So. Yeah, I mean, we should definitely be teaching this. This is God. This is the reason why, because we don't talk about the 10 Commandments, and they're not plastered on every single school as you walk in. That if they were, then God would have, of course, jumped in and stopped these killings. I mean, tornadoes never hit churches. I mean, the earthquakes and nothing ever bad happens bad to church people ever. I mean, as long as you go and you do these things, then God will take care of you. See, you're full of crap. Okay, Huckabee. All right, so. This is not the time to bring God into your school, and whenever there's tragedy, or whenever something bad happens, just think that's the strength of religion. The strength of religion is when somebody dies, or someone's in jail, or someone's poor, or someone doesn't know anything, or some tragedy happens. Or when people are ignorant, okay, when you're 6 or 7 and you don't know any better. That's when religion can really take the hold of you, when you're in a position of weakness and fear, and so you go and worship the sky daddy, and then these people come in and say, see, because you took God out of school, that's why the past 50, because of the systematic taking of God out of school for the last 50 years, that's why these things happen, and God doesn't stop. Come on, you really, honestly, this is why people don't want to be a part of religion, and this is what's wrong with religion, because this is what actually people believe, and it's ridiculous. All right, so I guess if you got everything that you wanted, religious people, everything, then I guess then nothing would go wrong. Oh no, but then then it would be God's will. And God's will, things would still go wrong, but then it would just be God's will, and we can't understand God's magical plan. So, well, then this is a part of the magical plan. Anything, if God already has this magical plan, then everything's a part of the magical plan, and these kids getting shot was a part of the plan. It didn't have anything to do with God being taken out of schools. All right, so you can't have it both ways. It just doesn't work that way. So, Huckabee, you're full of crap. All religious people are full of crap, because there's nothing. You're spouting lies, and you're talking double talk constantly.